𝗛𝗵𝗁 8:10 a.m. Radio Bandido.
The views and comments of the hosts and guests are not necessarily those of the station.
Hi, I'm Nicole, Jacinto. Join us on Healthline with 𝗵𝗏 as we discuss the latest health and medical topics with doctors from 𝗵𝗏. For a healthier and uplifting lifestyle, tune into Healthline with 𝗵𝗏 on DZRJ 8:10 a.m. Radio Bandido TV. You've got questions, we've got answers.
Watch and listen to Healthline with 𝗵𝗏, Mondays, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Airing on Sky Cable Channel 224 and on all DTT boxes. Simulcasting online on Facebook and YouTube. Listen and watch on your mobile devices. Just search DZRJ Radio Bandido.
You're about to experience Healthline, a show where doctors from 𝗵𝗏 interact with you for a healthy, uplifting lifestyle. Moderated by Nicole Jacinto. You've got questions, we've got answers. So welcome to Healthline.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Healthline with 𝗵𝗏. I'm your host, Nicole Jacinto. Tonight, we have with us on the program again, Dr. 𝗛𝗶𝗁𝗶. He is a cardiologist or a cardio specialist, and tonight we're going to talk about how to have a heart-healthy diet or heart health during the holidays, because this is often the time of year that we kind of overindulge in a little bit of what we eat or what we drink, and we do have incidences of people going to the ER more, even for stomach. That's happened to me, doctor, by the way. How are you this evening?
I'm okay, Nicole. How are you?
I'm all right. Probably indulging in ways that I shouldn't be as well. Okay.
Are you attending a party tonight?
No. I don't go to those anymore. Except on the celebration. But
Okay.
no, the season seems to bring on this, I don't know what it is exactly that I'm doing, but I have been getting some stomach problems, which is, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the excitement or whatever it is. And, probably the way we've been eating, like sneaking this and that a bit since last month. A lot of people seem to have their gatherings earlier. And then, of course, you know how that extends, especially in our culture. Okay, but so doctor, why are there more heart problems, or do you see an incidence of more heart problems or visits to the ER or to you or calls to you by your patients during the holidays?
Yeah, so you're very correct, Nicole. So the holiday season is actually the busiest for all hospitals. It's because the stress of the holidays actually push people to get sick. So we have a saying, there's a holiday rush. So everyone's rushing. There's terrible traffic, parking wars everywhere. There's
Yes.
nowhere to park. Yeah. And people are rushing to buy gifts, rushing to cook food, buy food, bring wine. And the stress makes us overindulge and overeat, and sometimes even overdrink or overindulge in alcoholic beverages.
Mhm.
All of these make us stress or make the heart more stressed. And as a result, people end up in the ER more often than not. So actually, this is the busiest time for all doctors.
Okay, thank you, doctor. See, some people might think that, oh, the doctors are also on holiday, but actually, you guys are very alert and ready to deal with your patients, regular or not, during the holidays. I'm actually glad for that, because I've had and seen people with experiences wherein you kind of panic and you think, oh no, I shouldn't go. Well, we can talk about that later, like when you should go to see the doctor or even just to the ER if you're feeling certain symptoms. And in particular, when it comes to issues with the heart or the cardiovascular system. And, you think, I won't see my regular doctor. Oh, all of these things. But then you guys are apparently also on standby for your for patients like us. Okay, doctor, you mentioned alcohol. And I guess some kind of, you mentioned the holiday party and food. I mean, how do they affect the heart in terms of you mentioned that there is generally stress during the holidays, and we do get more stressed, right? And the holiday
Yeah.
rush, and especially here in Metro Manila, is just crazy. The traffic and situations can elevate your blood pressure. Yes, you're trying to get gifts out and be that thoughtful person. I just stopped trying already.
Yeah.
That's like, um, because it does get too stressful. And it's also the time of year when you see relatives who may or may not be in town during the rest of the year. But how does really overindulging, perhaps you can give us a bit of an overview in alcohol and food, and what type of food specifically cause that plus I guess the added stress. I mean, if we overeat, like how much do your patients usually overeat? And how does it play into it?
Yeah. So let us first focus on the alcohol.
Mhm.
So we know there's a thing called holiday heart syndrome. So this is a happening very common during the holidays, not just the Christmas season, but even after fiestas or other public holidays. It happens usually in patients who are not really alcoholic beverage drinkers, and the alcohol that they imbibe over the next 1 or 2 hours are too much for them, and it irritates the heart. But usually they go home, they're okay, but
Mhm.
upon waking up, they feel this sudden palpitation, the heart is racing, they have dizziness and sweating, and maybe chest pains, and they feel like they need to go to the ER, and they even go to the ER.
Mhm.
So this is because the alcohol is actually toxic to the heart. So the alcohol itself irritates the heart, and even in patients who are really healthy, they may be athletic, but they are not accustomed to the alcohol. Imbibing over the weekend in a party with friends, of course, you cannot really help it. People will ask you to drink more and more.
Yes.
And after a few hours of drinking, you might have finished one bottle of wine, which
Mhm.
is actually too much.
Okay.
And of course, digesting the alcohol over the next few hours when they're sleeping also stresses the heart. And because they're not accustomed to it, they will have that what we call holiday heart syndrome. And the irregular heartbeat that causes it is called atrial fibrillation. And of course, as Filipinos, we know we really, really love to indulge in fatty foods when there's celebration. It's really an excuse to eat or to
Mhm.
showcase our culinary talents and eat and praise each other's cooking skills. So we
That's
will,
part of it also. Oh, yeah.
yeah, we will serve the best that we can cook up, or if we cannot cook, then we'll of course order. And
Mhm.
all of these foods are actually too much. So if you go to abroad and you go to a celebration, the food really is, compared to the Philippines, really scanty. But in the Philippines, we have flowing of food, maybe because of the fiesta mentality.
Yes.
And the food, because of the salt, the fat, and of course, the carbohydrates, the added calories, will take a stress. The body will really be stressed to digest it over when the patient's sleeping overnight, and it might cause overstress to the heart.
Mhm.
So the patient might be sleeping soundly, but the heart is really working hard and the stomach is really working hard to digest all that food and alcohol. And
Mhm.
that can really stress the heart. So in a patient who is not really healthy, the additional stress can really push the patient to the brink and maybe cause a heart attack or stroke the following day. That's why
Mhm.
we have to be careful. We don't want to wake up and spend the holidays in the hospital. We don't want people also to rush to the hospital and spend Christmas there or New Year's there without their family and friends. So we want everyone to be safe and happy in their own homes.
Indeed, doctor. And thank you for telling us all of that. I'd like to maybe just touch on a few things that you said. So, this is also for people who don't drink as much or who aren't drinking all year round, no? And as you said, it's even healthy individuals, even probably people who are healthy and at a younger age, or even those who are very built up or stay fit and go to the gym. Yes, there's a time during the, I mean, is it because of the if they overindulge in, let's take alcohol first. If they indulge in alcohol for an evening even, or an afternoon, or throughout the weekend with a, let's say, gathering here, a reunion there, a party here, and then talking to your friends and not realizing the amount that they've already imbibed in terms of alcoholic drinks. And it could be any alcoholic drink, like, right, it doesn't, I mean, you can't say that, oh, I'm just drinking this, so it's not as bad as that, the harder drink, no. um is it because it's also like, they're not aware of the amount and just like kind of pushes through their body, and that episode alone, even for someone who says, but I run and I do this and I swim and I go to the gym all the time and there's nothing wrong with me, I've never had a problem. Have you seen patients like that go to the hospital, or in the hospital with sudden very serious symptoms?
Yes, Nicole. So that's actually the more common story. Patients who are very healthy or relatively healthy, they're not accustomed to the alcohol and they'll go out with friends. And of course, when you're with friends, the stories never end and the alcohol also never ends. And then they will sleep soundly, and the following day they'll have the palpitations because of the irregular heartbeat. So we always tell our patients, whenever they go out, and whenever there's a plan to drink alcohol, if possible, they have to drink it with some liquid like water. The alcohol, aside from being something toxic to the heart, also produces dehydration. So because it's what we call a diuretic, it makes you pee. That's why when you drink alcohol, most of the time you go to the bathroom multiple times during the night. And this can lead to low electrolytes like low potassium, low magnesium, and a combination of the toxicity of the alcohol when they're not accustomed to it, the dehydration, and the electrolyte imbalance can trigger the irregular heartbeat. So we always tell our patients or our friends, if they go to the party, drink something on the side like water or Gatorade or Powerade. It will also help them to feel full earlier so that they will not imbibe. Sometimes, if they really don't have any self-discipline, we tell them eat ahead of time,
Yes.
so that, for example, they will have an early dinner, and then when they go to their event, and then when they sit down and start drinking alcohol, they're already full, and they'll be forced not to drink too much. Of course, there's peer pressure. So, but with discipline, they should also think about their health. It's not just the happenings that day. They also need to think about the future. They don't want to spend their holidays in the ER or in the hospital. So if they have the self-discipline, they drink water or Gatorade or Powerade on the side, and they eat beforehand, I'm sure they'll not drink a lot of alcohol during that night.
Yes, doctor. I was taught by my grandfather to eat before drinking and to eat the whole time you're drinking. And I'm like, you know what? That's a good idea, because if you're going to drink, you might as well accept that you have to put something in your stomach aside from the alcohol, because it's just, it's not a good practice. I mean, you're supposed to be enjoying it. But we do have some people who, there are moments when, oh, you didn't get to eat dinner and you rushed somewhere, and then the conversations and the alcohol come first, and then it's just, easier to drink. And there is peer pressure, even for those who don't to pressure their peers. Oh, just one more round, or oh, da, da. And then we have the chiding, and it
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily mean that people are alcoholics, but it's like a binge. You just binge at that moment, and you don't realize what it can be doing to your body. And you mentioned, like, okay, so they'll go home, they'll sleep, but while they're sleeping, their heart and their digestive system is working hard, not only to digest the alcohol or maybe the other food and whatever as well. And you said alcohol dehydrates, and that can affect your electrolytes. Is it okay? So, like, let's say they wake up. When people wake up the next day with a hangover, is that also due to dehydration?
Most of the time, yes.
Okay.
The dehydration, electrolyte imbalance, and of course the sedative effect of the alcohol. So that's why they have a really hard time waking up. It's because of the toxic effect of the alcohol. And if I may just add, you're correct. Nicole, that the percentage actually makes a big difference. So, for example, they will imbibe in hard drinks
Yeah.
like whiskey. So that the alcohol component of that is really much than regular beer. So
Mm-hmm.
the alcohol, so we know that we have a standard drink. So for example, you have a standard wine glass. You don't overfill that. So you just, for example, fill it up to the three-fourths level, and then a one glass of beer and one shot glass of maybe whiskey. So those are the equivalent. So if you're drinking, for example, one glass of whiskey, that's equivalent to maybe 4 or 5 standard drinks. So if they're drinking something stronger with more percentage of alcohol, then they should, of course, bear in mind that the amount is different when they're drinking beer. So they should be drinking less if they're drinking more concentrated alcoholic beverages, Nicole.
Thank you, doctor. Yes, from experience as well, and dealing with, having friends, drinking in the past. Sometimes people say, "I want to make it worth it, so I'm gonna take the harder drinks first." But then you stay longer, or you talk longer, and throughout the night you're also hitting the other drinks, and you don't realize. So it can't be a complete counting game, but it should be within reason. For all of our sakes. I'm certainly in way back we've had incidences where like, oh my god, we should bring our puking friend to the hospital, right? you know, I think this has been overdone. And it still happens. So okay, so the alcohol, but some people will not totally remember that unless you were an ex-professional drinker like myself. Just kidding. I was never a professional drinker, but I just kind of knew my stuff because some people also have higher tolerance than others.
Right. Yeah.
But that's also developed over time and practice. And I don't want to encourage that. I'm just saying that you can't always drink
Yeah.
what your friends do if you're not, drinking with them all the time. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for some clarifications and being very specific on the alcohol, on the side of overindulging in alcohol, doctor. How about when it comes to food? Is it really that, like, how have you found that overindulging in food? And okay, so let's talk about a bit about our cuisine. What do you find are the culprits in Filipino cuisine end up that end up sending your patients to the ER or giving you calls, and you ask them, what did you eat, what did you drink during the holiday
Yeah.
season?
Yeah. So unfortunately, we are very fond of fatty food. So we're very fond of our lechon, our tapas. So all of these, the fat in the food, of course, over time will deposit in our arteries, and this can cause blockages. And aside from that, which is worse, we're also very fond of desserts. So we have our leche flan, our ube halaya, halo. The sugar in that food that we ate 1 month ago
Mhm.
can cause or can wreak havoc in our blood vessels. Sugar is an what we call an inflammatory substance, so it causes inflammation of the blood vessels. And when the blood vessel is inflamed, it can harden, and the cholesterol can also stick there and cause blockages. So it's not uncommon that people who are actually, even when they're thin, but they do eat a lot of fat or they do indulge in desserts, end up developing blockages in the arteries of the heart early on. So we've had a deluge of patients in their 30s
Mhm.
because of their sedentary lifestyle. Sometimes they're smoking and they eat really bad. Their diet is really terrible. They have a lot of processed foods, so we know that these are really terrible food, and they're not consulting because they're feeling okay. But when, for example, the holidays come, there's stress, the heart rate goes up, the blood pressure goes up. The stress in the heart arteries can cause the cholesterol deposits to rupture, and the body will think that there's a wound there, and it will try to plug it up. Unfortunately, when it happens in the artery of the heart, the whole artery becomes clogged, and this results in a heart attack. So that's why we always tell our patients never forget the diet. The diet is really very important predictor for future heart attacks or strokes or heart failure. So even if the patient is really exercising, but the diet is really terrible, we tell them no amount of exercise will beat a good diet. So we start with diet, and as we said during the holiday season, us Filipinos really love to serve a lot of food. We have our spreads on a very long dining table, and no celebration will be complete without a lot of food. And
Yes.
this is really bad because when you're drinking alcohol and you're partying, you cannot control your portions. You will be talking and eating the whole night,
Mhm.
and you might be eating for the whole day in just 1 hour.
True.
The amount, I mean, you'll be eating a lot in just 1 hour, and this, of course, can stress your heart and your gastrointestinal tract. So the lesson is, in moderation, be aware. The celebration is for celebrating in the house and with the family, not celebrating in the hospital.
Okay, doctor. I do have stories about that, but they're not for this show. Okay, doctor. We just have to take a short break, but we'll
Yeah.
be right back, and then I'll just ask you a little bit more about the food content, and of course we have some other questions also, to really give a complete picture about being heart healthy in terms of diet, and that this is the cause why most of the people end up in the hospital, and hopefully it's not serious, but you still end up there. Okay, so we'll be right back, folks. Stay tuned.
You're listening to DZRJ 810 AM. We'll be right back after these reminders.
Hi, this is Dr. 𝗂𝗶𝘁𝗵 from Makati Medical Center, and I'm happy to share that our world-class quality healthcare with the heart is now more accessible and affordable through Makati Med Care Access at 𝗂𝗶𝘁𝗵𝗹𝗁. Available for outpatient care services, our 𝗂𝗶𝘁𝗵𝗹 site offers consultation and diagnostic procedures such as medical assistance, hospital admission assistance, blood pressure monitoring, laboratory tests, and X-ray, among others. This is really convenient for those residing in Makati and nearby areas who do not want to go to the hospital to have these treatments and procedures done. We believe that access to excellent quality and compassionate healthcare is a basic human right, and we at Makati Med 𝗂𝗶𝘁𝗵𝗹 are doing our best to make this possible to more people. We are open from Monday to Saturday at 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the third floor of 𝗂𝗶𝘁𝗵𝗹 in Makati City. For inquiries, you may reach us at these numbers. We look forward to serving you here at Makati Med Care Access 𝗂𝗂𝗶𝘁𝗵𝗹.
You're back with Healthline, keeping you healthy. Moderated by Nicole Jacinto.
Everybody, and welcome back to Health with Makati Med. I'm your host, Nicole Jacinto. We're here with Dr. 𝗂𝗶𝘁𝗵𝗋, and we're discussing how to be more mindful, or we're talking about holiday heart health. And as we've said earlier, during our discussion with the doctor, that mostly alcohol and food, both of that are the culprits for people ending up, or heart patients, or even healthy people ending up in the hospital with heart issues. I mean, doctor, you even mentioned earlier that they're like, even in terms of, I guess it's the whole diet that we have, no. For one thing, we have fatty food like lechon, which is roasted pig, and then all the fats there, and then the skin that we love. And then if you don't eat pork, there's still other types of dishes, and it's not a time when you save on putting salt. I mean, it's not people, as you said, Filipinos love to showcase their cooking talents and also praise each other's cooking talents. So you will use whatever the best ingredients are, and the butter and the cream and the mayo for some dishes and all of that. So I guess all of these portions. And is it also because like it's so often? I mean, if you do attend celebrations, like it happens very much within a span of uh a month or 2 or 3 weeks. We already know that you can get sick, as you explained to us, by overindulging even just one time. But those repeated times, like there is a pre-Christmas celebration or a reunion, and then a Christmas celebration, a party, and another thing to attend to, perhaps a social gathering, and then New Year's Eve. Is that the reason too? Like they're so shortly spaced between each other?
You're correct, Nicole. So it's not uncommon for people to attend maybe 10 to 20 parties in 1 month during the December period. We have to attend our party with the office mates, for example, and then with friends, and then with family, and then with a division in the office, and then maybe with cousins. And then there's really a lot of excuses to go out during the holiday season. Sometimes even with family, we tend to eat outside more often during the holiday season because of the advertisements, the lights. We all want to celebrate and be happy. It's because of the ads that we need to celebrate. It's really the calling of the season that we need to go out and eat and indulge. And as we said, it's not just during the eating. It's even before. It starts even before. So when you're planning, so for example, you're working in the office and you want to go to a party, then you're trying to rush your job because you want to get out exactly at 5 o'clock so that you won't be late to the party. And
Yes.
then you rush to the parking. And then when you go out, it's really hellish traffic outside. And then your blood pressure is elevated, your heart rate is elevated. And when you go to your event, you don't have a parking space there. And then you search and search and wait in your car. And then, of course, you're really stressed. And when you reach the event, for example, it's
In a restaurant or a hotel or something.
in the mall, you have to buy something. Yeah, you have to buy something to bring, and that is also stressful. And of course, during the time when you're eating and indulging, you might, for example, see not so nice friends or
Yeah.
acquaintances. Yeah, so all of those can lead to additional stress. So you're correct. It's really a lot of parties, and even before the party and after the party. So when they wake up, they're still stressed because they have to go to work the following day. So all of this really leads to a lot of stress in the heart and in the GI tract of our patients. And this in a patient who is not really seeking prevention. This is what I'll highlight next.
Yes.
It will really test their endurance and their health. So, if we have one takeaway from this talk, I think it's really prevention. So, we already anticipate that it will be a busy holiday season, or we're already past the 10s and 20s. We're ending the December. Next year, or ideally, they should have already sought consult prior to the holiday season to prepare them. So it's like going to battle. You need to know your strengths and weaknesses. So you'll do a comprehensive lab test in your favorite hospital, like Makati Med, and maybe do a 2D echo, ultrasound of the heart, or a stress test, so that you'll know if you can tolerate the stress, or if you need to maybe lay low on the fat if your cholesterol is already very high, or maybe take medicines for the cholesterol. If your sugar is very high, maybe you need to not overindulge and maybe drink maintenance medications. So because if you don't come prepared during the holiday season, then you might lose the battle and end up in the hospital. So we want everyone to be, if possible, be aware and be prepared. So go to the hospital before the holiday seasons, ideally, and see your favorite doctor. And if you're near Makati, then go to Makati Med, because we have a host of services, preventive services that we can offer that will be preparing you for the holiday season.
Thank you, doctor. Actually, this conversation comes at a great time because I have been concerned about that, not for myself necessarily, but for other people in terms of, preparing for the holiday season. Like it is difficult for me, um, to remind and tell certain people, who like, oh, don't eat this, or it's difficult also because, especially people who are older or who have some of these conditions already, and I don't I don't I'm sure a lot of people feel this way. You don't want to see them go to the hospital, but the celebration continues and you must celebrate when you can. How do you like mitigate that, apart from, like, you're telling us the risks, and but do you have a technique as a doctor, or even more advice, like, okay, for me, I would probably listen to you, or not might go out the window on Christmas, during Christmas dinner, and I mean, I wouldn't really drink, but I'd probably indulge in food, as or the kind of food I like, because, oh, it's there, it's being served, and it's a tradition. But how can we help ourselves and the people around us, like, sort of take things slowly? Let's say someone's on a specific diet, and you can't, can be very strict about it, but people also need to enjoy. How do you sort of, could you give me some advice on how to, and others also, on how to, get through that period, like, where they see everyone else is eating all this food that they used to eat, or that may taste good, and and indulging in other ways, but they can't. How do you,
Yeah.
techniques or special spells that we can cast?
Yeah. So we know that in our culture, the holidays is actually the biggest excuse. It's like the biggest or the longest cheat days. It's
Yes.
not just days, but days. So we have to get around that mindset, that when you say cheat day, it's really just one day.
Mm.
And we need to get around the mindset that, for example, people or friends will tell me, I did not drink alcohol during the past week or so, so I can now drink one bottle of beer
Every
or two
day.
bottles of beer. Yeah, because I did not drink anything during
Yeah.
the past 2 weeks. So as a doctor or as a friend, I usually tell them it's really the amount of what you're drinking now. It doesn't matter if you did not drink the following week or month, but if you binge, meaning more than two drinks, standard drinks,
Mhm.
for a female, or one drink for a male during one night, you increase the risk of stress, even heart attack or atrial fibrillation, the irregular heartbeat, or stroke during that night. I'm not saying that it's automatic,
Yes.
but you don't want to bet your bottom dollar on something that probably you'll lose.
Mhm.
So, and of course, we usually, if we're talking about the patient, I usually do a battery of tests to really show him. So, for example, his cholesterol or her cholesterol is high, and I tell him, this is your cholesterol level, and if you indulge over the holidays,
Mhm.
most likely it will increase. Some patients even want a before and after. So they'll
Yeah.
do a test during November. For example, their cholesterol is 200, so that's borderline high. And they'll repeat it after the holidays, and then they'll see it's 300, 350. So they'll get a visual scare, because they'll actually see the effect of the overindulgence during the holidays. So if it's a friend, then it's more difficult, especially if it's an older friend or maybe your parent or grandparents. So what we usually do is we cheat them. So as I said, for example, when I'm the host or when I'm the friend of the host, when we serve alcoholic beverages, you can ask the host or your friend to dilute the alcoholic beverage so that they'll not be drinking a lot of alcohol in terms of volume.
Mhm.
And of course, serving a lot of pika pika might also help because they'll feel full earlier
Mhm.
and they might not drink a lot.
Mhm.
So of course, if really your loved one, for example, your dad or your mother, and they're really having a great time. Sometimes serving soft drinks in between or just water in between can also help. It's difficult to, of course, they will tell you it's really just a holiday, so it's just one day that we'll celebrate for the whole year. But it's never just one day. It's really difficult to tell older patients or older family members to stop. But with if you show love and care, so for example, you tell them maybe you need to take a walk. Let's take a walk and then talk. Those small things, small gestures when you're walking, and then the walk will take their mind off the alcohol maybe, and they'll not overindulge. So, but there's really no magic spell. For me as a doctor, the key is really to prepare the patient. So, battery of tests before, show them if they want after the effect of the overindulgence. If they have already problems with cholesterol and sugar, treat that so that the holidays will not really be too stressful for their and add on to their cholesterol and sugar levels. And of course, if they're drinking, better if they drink with their loved one, because if they're drinking with friends, it's easier to overindulge. If they're drinking with loved ones, it's more difficult to overindulge when
Yeah.
they're thinking that they will have someone to go home to. Then they might think twice and think about their health.
I sometimes I feel like the police, doc. Like I walk in somewhere, I'm like, I'm busting up a party of 70-year-olds. Hey, 70+ year olds, stop that. No, and then I'm like, where did I go?
That's
How dare
difficult.
you talk to me that way? But um,
Yeah.
but also sometimes I just try to make other dishes, but I'm not a chef. See, I'm not gifted with that. All the stuff I used to cook are also very unhealthy. But maybe just other dishes, and then they're like, but this is not what we usually eat. I know, but just try stuff. But thank you for giving
Yeah.
us tips, and it's really also preparation and spending time talking with them and getting them out of that moment. I've tried also like the serving soft drinks in between. Usually I just drink soft drinks, um but of course with the caution that if they're not also supposed to be on sodas or things like that, then or drinks like that, then it's not a good idea. So I don't know, I guess spice up the sparkling water with some fruit or something. But sometimes, it's just
Yeah.
hard. I can't even do that to myself. Sometimes it's my parents who at first are like, "Hey, what you doing, kid?" And I'm like, "I'm watching everybody else, so tonight I'm gonna indulge." But anyway, thank you, doctor, for really, pointing that out and not hounding on it. I'm the one who's gonna hound on it now. You were also, I'm so glad that you mentioned all the stressors that come before and after the event itself, like thinking of getting out early from work and doing this and doing these other things, and what happens after. It can be stressful. Like it's sort of it defeats sometimes the purpose of our celebrations, especially in this like busy and crowded way we live now with the traffic and everything else. um it's just a lot more stressful than it used to be, in terms of going out and meeting people. And I mean, it's just different, no? Have you found that things have changed after the pandemic, that it is even more stressful? Or I mean, I just have to ask you that because also like overeating and stress and all of that are also psychosocial issues that I'm sure affect the heart.
Yeah, you're correct, Nicole. So actually, there's one good thing that happened during the pandemic. It's that more people are more careful. They're more aware of their health, so they're actually seeking more professional help. But because of the economic impact of the pandemic, the prices now are really high. It really adds to the stress of living in Metro Manila.
I agree
So
with
what we usually tell our patients, is to take it easy. So the event will happen, whether you're late or not.
yes.
You Correct. You don't need to rush to the next party. You don't have to go to two parties in one night. You don't have to stay until 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning. You don't need to drink the whole bottle. You don't need to tell stories the whole night. So you just enjoy. It's really just a celebration. And then there'll be more parties. And of course, good thing because of the pandemic, more and more people are actually seeking help. And if, for example, the following day when they wake up, if they feel they have palpitations or chest pain, or they have difficulty breathing, or they may have slurred speech, uh, rush to the hospital. Don't be afraid. Don't be scared. Go to the hospital immediately, because we need to sort this out. That it's not just something that is just being drunk. It can be as serious as a heart attack or a stroke, and time is of the essence. For example, if it's a stroke and we don't treat it, recognize it, diagnose it immediately, you can lose for example, left side of the body, the motor, so you can be paralyzed, the whole left side. So if they have any hangover symptoms that is unusual, if they have palpitations, chest pain, go to the hospital. So don't worry about us telling you that it's busy. It's really, if you really need to go to the hospital, go to the hospital. It's better to be examined, better to be safe than sorry.
And doctor, should I mean, can you give a word to patients who maybe go, then it doesn't turn out to be, as drastic as it is, and they feel embarrassed? I mean, isn't it better to be safe than sorry, and like them to hear it coming from a doctor rather than, oh, it might be nothing, and then there's a sort of a hesitation because they don't want to be a burden.
Correct. Yeah. So most of the time, we can rely on symptoms, but there's no better way to rule out or rule in diagnosis than doing a test. So, for example, you can ask your friend your symptoms, and you can even Google it. But if doctors do not examine you, and we don't run tests on you, so we don't go to the ER, we won't be able to diagnose you properly. So remember, the symptoms, for example, might be
Yes,
as
so
benign as
give us
yeah,
symptoms now.
just palpitations, yeah. And it might feel just like a regular palpitations, but it might last longer. And as I said before, the holiday heart syndrome is really causing what we call atrial fibrillation. And it's really a fast heartbeat, and it can stress your heart and cause a heart attack. So even don't worry, the hospitals are really prepared, and we have braced ourselves for long and really busy holiday season. It's part of our calling. We don't turn down patients. So the doors of, for example, Makati Medical Center are wide open for all patients. And actually, for most patients, it's the peace of mind that happen when they go out of the hospital and they have a clean bill of health. So that is actually priceless. So if you have any doubts and you really need answers, we just go to Makati Med, and we can run tests on you, and we can give you a clean bill of health. So, but if you're really sick, then a good thing you went to the hospital, and then we can treat you properly and send you home immediately. And hopefully by New Year, so you can at least spend the New Year's Eve with your family and friends.
Doctor, okay, so a few things. Thank you for giving us the symptoms. You have been mentioning palpitations throughout the whole show. For those who have never experienced palpitations or are not familiar with it, can we try to sort of describe it for them? And
Yeah, so it's really, yeah. Thank you, Nicole. So it's really, there are two types of palpitations. So it can be like a horse racing in your chest. You feel your heart racing, or it can just be like a skip beat, and you're just aware that the heartbeat is really there, strong. So usually, if, for example, you're busy, you don't feel your heart beating, but if you feel it and it's strong, or there's skipping, or the more scary one is if it's really racing, you feel your heartbeat really fast and maybe irregular. And that is what we call palpitation. So the the holiday heart syndrome is really due to the what we call atrial fibrillation. So it's a very fast heartbeat. So the normal heartbeat is 60 to 100. If you have atrial fibrillation, usually the heartbeats will be about 140, 160, really racing. And you might have adrenaline surge. So you might have sweating, cold sweats. You might feel shivering. Sometimes you have a sense of impending doom. It's as if you're about to die. It's because of the adrenaline surge. Sometimes, if you have blockages in the heart that you're not aware of, and the heart is really racing, then you can have chest pain. So the chest pain is like a crushing sensation over the chest. You can't point where it is, and you can't breathe. So that is a sign that you might be having a heart attack. And if you're, for example, you just run and your heartbeat is fast, if you rest, the heartbeat will slow down. But if you get the atrial fibrillation, it will not slow down even when you're resting. So that's what's scary about it. So it can terminate, but it can last hours, sometimes even days. And imagine if your heartbeat is racing at 140, 160, it's just like running for the whole day if it's persistent for the whole day. And it can tire you out, and it can tire your heart out. And it might even cause a heart attack or heart failure. So if you feel that, better to be safe than sorry, go to the hospital and we can run tests. So if it's just a false alarm, then at least you have peace of mind and you can face the next day with confidence that you're really okay.
On that, to those statements you made, doctor, can palpitations feel like, okay, first of all, is it always dangerous when it's a faster heartbeat, when you say atrial fibrillation, does it mean it's very fast and very strong, like dug 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 dug? And as you said, you mentioned a number like could be 160, or can patients sometimes feel like there's something wrong, or you got a bit of a weird sensation in your chest, or you feel weak, but it's more of a subtle thing, and you take let's say you take your pulse rate and it's about 80 something, just saying numbers, 80 something per minute. So you're like, oh, okay, that's still normal, but you don't feel right. And it feels like maybe your heart is skipping beats.
Yeah.
Is it, should you always be concerned if it's too slow, and you don't somehow feel right? I mean, is that part of what goes into it? Or for these, for these, heart health conditions that we're talking about during the holidays, is it always the case where it's faster?
You're correct. It's not always faster. It can be slow, just strong, or slow or regular, slow, normal, or an irregular rhythm. So good thing we have a lot of wearables. So for example, you have a doubt in your mind,
Yeah.
and if you're an Apple user, if you have an Apple Watch, you can actually use the Apple Watch if it's a Series 6 and above to record your ECG. And because of the AI, it's actually intelligent enough to screen for AFib or irregular heartbeats.
Okay.
So if you're not an Apple user, you can also use, for example, Android devices if they have an ECG feature, and there's an alert for irregular heartbeats. So, but if the patient has no Android or Apple wearable, or there's a doubt. So, for example, I use the Apple Watch and it says it's regular, but you're still doubting because you feel differently. An ECG in the ER is really the gold standard for diagnosing. And if it's really normal, then at least you have peace of mind. And it really beats the feeling that you're not sure if you're really sick or not. Yeah.
Yeah, and doctor, okay, so when you go to the ER, let's just say, and some of the tests you conduct will be, of course, you'll like palpate the person manually, ask questions, and then what did you eat? What did you drink? Are you
Yeah.
stressed out? All of those things come into play. And then, a lot of people also have who have mental health issues and stress. This also adds to um to that feeling, plus the stuff we eat and the stuff we drink. So the things we take in and we imbibe. um when you take the ECG, that's I'm just trying to explain the procedure to some people. Like it's not as freaky. You just put like a sort of a lotion on the chest, and you put they're like little plastic, yeah, the electrodes, little plastic nails, and then you just take it, and you don't have to do anything, and
Yeah,
you'll know whether the person is having a heart attack or not. Yes, you can definitely, or
right.
whether the heartbeat is irregular, it's skipping a beat, and then from then on, you can take it from there, the kind of medication that the person should have. Or do you also get, I wanted to ask this, do you also get incidences where it's anxiety and you're able to
Yeah,
detect?
yeah. So, for example, the patient is feeling something like a palpitation.
Mhm.
And for example, they wear an Apple Watch and they record it's really normal, or we do an ECG, it's really normal. So it can still be anxiety. So sometimes when we say anxiety, that means that there's no organic disease, meaning it's really just emotions. But sometimes, for example, if the patient's heartbeat is normal, but it's really faster for him or her. It can, for example, be due to other causes like a thyroid problem. So the palpitation can be because of hyper or hyperfunctioning thyroid. So it's not, we need to rule out organic causes or other diseases before we can say it's really anxiety. Because, of course, if it's something treatable, we need to treat that before labeling the patients as just having some anxiety. But it can be anxiety, just anxiety, Nicole.
Yeah, I've heard, and probably have said, oh, no, this is just anxiety. But as you said, if you're not sure, well, even if it's anxiety who wants to suffer that way, if you can manage to go there, you cannot calm down, or you still feel different, then go. Doctor, we're just going to take a short break before I ask you a few more questions, and give you the floor for giving us advice on prevention, and like even more, mention more details perhaps, or other thoughts of wisdom that you have on the topic. So we're just going to take a short break. Stay tuned, folks.
You're listening to DZRJ 810 AM. We'll be right back after these reminders.
Hi, this is Dr. 𝗛𝗶𝘁𝗵 from Makati Medical Center, and I'm happy to share that our world-class quality healthcare with the heart is now more accessible and affordable via Makati Med Mobile Care Access. As the name suggests, this service is mobile, which means that we go to where you are. Mobile Care Access deploys a team of professionals for face-to-face consultations and to conduct basic laboratory and diagnostic procedures, as well as vaccination and testing, depending on your needs. We can go to any location of your choice within the metro and readily offer these healthcare services to communities or groups. For added convenience, different modes of payment are available, including HMO benefits for those with a valid letter of authorization. We believe that access to affordable, quality, and compassionate healthcare is a basic human right, and we at Makati Med are doing our best to make this possible to more people. For inquiries, scheduling, or pre-registration, you may reach out to us at the following numbers. We look forward to coming to you and serving your community with Makati Med Mobile Care Access.
You're back with Healthline, keeping you healthy, moderated by Nicole Jacinto.
Okay, welcome back to Healthline with Makati Med. We're here with Dr. 𝗶𝗶𝗁. We're talking about heart health during the holidays. Thank you for being on the show, Doctor. You've given us so much information already, and I think maybe just listening to you and talking to you is kind of calming. Well, it's calming me down. So this is, this is like a bit, well, not really off topic, but I don't usually like sharing a lot of stuff, but I do get more anxious during the holidays because of people's health and then the traffic situation. So you did mention earlier, I'd like to go back to it, about getting checkups before the holidays. And then I'm so glad you have patients who get their tests before and after, because
Yeah.
I've heard so much now, I'm just gonna get it after. That way I can like, or people who I've heard this, and it's like, I'm dieting now so that I pass my tests. Last,
Correct.
and then you heard that
That is
too, and
us.
then ah, I'll just, and I'm like, yeah, but if you pass the test and then you overdo it, I don't want to have that argument too much, but it happens, right? And then that's kind of a
Correct. Yeah.
natural. I mean, it's kind of human nature to do that, and we think it's a test that we have to pass. Hopefully, we pass because we're okay, not because we're able to mask it for 2 weeks.
Correct.
Okay. And like you were
Yeah.
saying, I mean, to see how much, like, if people take it before then after, patients or friends who are like that, they'll say, oh, okay, it really did wreak havoc on my system, or it really made a difference. Um, so go ahead, doctor. You were gonna say something.
Yeah. So if we'll give advice, mostly it's to plan ahead. So everything is really planning ahead. For example, if you're attending a party, and if you want to lessen the stress, so plan ahead. And then second advice is to simplify things. So of course, when we're young or younger, we used to think about doing everything that we need to do. So, for example, if we have three party invites, you want to go to all three at night.
Yeah.
At that point, because you don't want to miss the fun.
Yeah.
So, but of course, as we get older, especially our patients, we need to think about our family. We're going home to a family. We need to take care of ourselves. So, I always stress to the patient that plan ahead and simplify things. If going to two parties in one night is too stressful, then don't. Just choose one. It
Or
will
like
not
one day
be
after
the
the other
end.
after the other. Yeah. Will
It will
not
not
be
be
interesting.
the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, of course, for example, if you know the holiday rush, we already practice this, but for those who are not practicing it, if you're buying food or gifts, so buy it before ahead of time.
Mhm.
If you're hosting a party or you're attending a party and you want to bring food and you don't have the time or the effort or the skill to cook, then don't worry. You can buy. It's easy now to buy freshly cooked meals, and then you can bring that or serve that to your friends. So you don't need to do everything just like it used to be. So
Yes.
now it's a more complicated world. We need to adapt, so simplify things and plan ahead. If you, for example, you're doing some hosting and your house is really dirty, then maybe renting a place or going to somewhere, for example, in the mall, in a restaurant, doing the party there might be more helpful than stressing yourself out cleaning your house and and
Hanging out
having
there,
someone. Yeah.
especially
And
with
then you
that
have to
one,
clean.
because
Yeah, and you have to clean it up again.
I'm.
So plan ahead and can't stress it enough. So be responsible. So that's the third advice. So
Mhm.
it's not it our life is really complicated now. A
Mhm.
lot of people depend on us. So I always tell my patients, it's not just for you. If you're, for example, if we're talking about the father or
Mhm.
the mother, I tell them, your health doesn't just end with you. If you're not healthy, of course, their sons and daughters will suffer because they might die early. So if they already have sons and daughters who are in their 20s, I tell them, you really need to take care of your health because you want to see your granddaughters or grandsons. So if we're living for someone else, it makes us more responsible. If we're living just for ourselves, it makes us more reckless. So
Yeah.
plan ahead, simplify your life, and be responsible. So planning ahead really includes seeing your doctor even before the holiday break so that we can prepare you and give you more advice on how to better manage your health during the holidays.
Thank you so much for that, doctor. That especially hit me. Um, I try to do it ahead of time, but I'm still kulang with some of the doctors, like having people check, because it just I've also seen people get sick or hurt during the holidays, and I guess at this point it's something, it's something that every year I don't want to come up against it. I mean, maybe that's something for me to tell a mental health specialist. I don't know, but it just, also the things you're saying, when I say that, or say to other people, because I'm enjoying to come on, put up a celebration. I'm like, I don't seem to have like the same kind of will or energy that I used to, but it just makes me feel like, thank you for saying, actually, and I don't know why I'm sharing this. Maybe it's the spirit of Christmas, sharing, oversharing, but there are things that we do have to accept, and I guess it's okay. And like you were saying about the cleaning of the house, okay, the house is clean, but if we put up tons of decorations, it's just, you have to, everyone has allergies, so you have to make sure
Correct.
you're all, and then the thing of the gifts and everything. I am not efficient the way my elders were. So I am just, and I'm not efficient the way I used to be either. So I think, thank you for saying that. And maybe a lot of people have, a lot of people I've spoken to have been feeling that, or the opposite. Like, nah, come on, just challenge yourself. So I don't think there's any right or wrong answer there. But thank you for saying that. I didn't expect it to come from you for people who are feeling the way I do. And maybe there are more people that are like, yeah, I'm just gonna, celebrate something that's just right. And
Correct.
it's part of what goes into heart health in terms of the stress and preparation and doing all that. And okay, what if we didn't get to do all the checkups like, when we were supposed to? Because then again, there was stress and so many things to prepare for. Should we just hold our breath in the coming days? Or do you think there are services that we can access? Like, not for emergencies, but now might be a good time to try it, because there's still the actual, celebration or the date, and the upcoming holiday in a week, where everyone will be like, "Wow," again, and Happy New Year.
Yeah, so don't worry. For example, most hospitals do offer their executive checkups just in case you change your mind. And it's still late December. I think they'll still offer it until the actual holidays. So if you still want, or you're still planning to do a late checkup, you can still go to any hospital, just like Makati Med, and have your executive checkups. If it's really you're in a bind and you just want blood tests, and then you can of course do tests and then have a teleconsult with your doctor, as long as it's still reasonable time. So just to prepare. And if you really did not do any tests and you're not sure, be careful. Just to be,
Okay.
it is really be safer. It really pays to be safe than sorry. So we don't want you to see the four corners of a hospital room the rest of the holiday season. It's better to be careful and then spend your holidays happy and with your loved ones at home.
Thank you, doctor. I also want to mention those who also because I've seen people prepare and get tired for so many other people, and
Yeah,
and they got sick. Like, not necessarily they were
correct.
inducted, but they were like cooking for
Yeah.
everyone, and so thank you so much, doctor. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Yeah, so don't worry, Makati Med is always open. Even in the wee hours of the night, the ER is always open, and it's manned by very competent doctors. So if you have any doubts as to your health or your heart, you can just go to the ER of any hospital, especially Makati Med. And the peace of mind that comes from a clean bill of health is actually priceless.
I agree. Thank you, doctor. Thank you very much for being on the show today. If there's anyone you'd like to greet, please go ahead and do so.
I would just like to greet my wife, Dr. May. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, doctor, for being on the show. Happy holidays to your wife. And we'll see you guys again next week on Healthline with Makati Med. Thanks, folks.
Thank you, Nicole. Happy holidays.
Happy
Thank you.
holidays.
Thank you for tuning in to Healthline with expert doctors from Makati Med, giving you the chance to interact, uplifting your lifestyle. Moderated by Nicole Jacinto. Tune in again next week for your weekly dose of Healthline.
The views and comments of the hosts and guests are not necessarily those of the station.